Good morning and welcome back to Kirkstone. I just thought before we start the overview of what's happening of interest and note on the small bulbs collection, we just take a loving glance over these wonderful new phorocacti that have arrived from Knobs and Blobs on eBay. I'm building up a small collection of phorocacti. I'm really in love with the strong spination and especially the brightly coloured ruby spines of plants like Gracilis coloratus and all the rest. But we're not here to look at phorocacti. We're not here to look at my fabulous gigantic aloe melanacantha. We're not even here to look at this free gift I received the other day from Benjamin Bishop. Thanks very much, Ben. This fantastic columnar Haworthia glauca. We're not even here to look at this wonderful Haworthia pumila. We are here to look at the small bulbs, so the smaller growing members of what was the Liliaceae, that particular section of the Asparagales group, and also those plants which are broadly assumed to be amaryllids. So there's a few things happened since we last looked at the small bulbs. On the very curious plant, but I can't really show you how curious it is because it's only just starting to come into growth. You can just see the first peculiar leaves coiled around here, ready to erupt from the spiral albuca. So a plant which languishes under the glorious sobriquet of the spiral-leaved slime lily. Isn't that lovely, the slime lily, Albuca spiralis. But all the lacanalias are now up. So we've got the dark green and maculate, the spotted leaved Lacanalia pusilla is just starting to reinforce its position amongst the Lacanalia hierarchy. We've seen the end of the flowering of one of the most miniatures of the Lacanalias, Lacanalia ensiflora. So that's just coming to an end, but the flowers are beginning to grow. And the other Lacanalia that we have here, which is Lacanalia pauciflora, has just come into the peak of its growth, and you can see the leaves are continuing to grow, and they do have that typical spotted formation on the leaves. Just two leaves, very long, very succulent and lovely. We had the Romulaeas were growing nicely before. We haven't seen any flowers yet, so that may be next year. So Romulea species, Romulea ramiflora, for example, with those great long 10-inch grass-like leaves, and Romulea grandiscapa. But we added two more 1-year-old bulbs. These are, there's 4 bulbs in here. This is Romulea comsburgensis and also Romulea tetragona. Now the tetragona is noteworthy of having leaves which are square in cross section, not round, and you can just about see the first leaf coming up there, Romulea tetragona. So what else is happening? Well, I suppose the big news is the continuing development of the Masonias. So Masonia pustulata, the warty Masonia, has developed quite an erect formation, quite distinct from the normal sessile leaf formation of the other Masonias, which we'll come to in a minute. But it has been up here for about a month now, and we can just see the flower cone starting to consolidate in the middle there. So that's Masonia pustulata, but some of the other Masonias have proven to be much larger than I thought they would be. I'll just move this amaryllis leaf out of the way. This is Masonia longipace, the long-legged Masonia, and the leaves have continued to grow. So the leaves are about 3 inches long by about 2 inches wide. And this is the one that when the sunlight hits the leaves at the right angle, and it's quite difficult to replicate artificially, it just seems to happen. They're actually quite crystalline. They look like leaves sprinkled or encrusted with small diamonds. But you may be able to see, if I can get the angle right, that the flower cone is just starting to think about opening. There are clear lines there separating the different sepals that will open up and form the flowers. A slightly different flower formation on Masonia hirsuta. Now this is a much smaller growing plant. The whole plant is only about 2 inches across and the leaves are about 1 inch wide. But you can see what almost looks like a small green pine cone, which is the basis that the inflorescence will spring from very, very soon. But my largest growing Masonia here is Masonia depressa. Now these leaves have proven to be quite magnificent. They're about 3.5–4 inches long and about the same width, and they're now spilling out the side of the pot. A really, really attractive plant. I did liken it before, so I shouldn't try to be repetitive, to a miniature water lily. It really looks like a water lily floating on the soggy banks of the Amazon, or just a lotus floating in the lagoon in India. But again, you can see that well-developed flower cone developing in the centre there. And quite similar to Masonia hirsuta, we've also got a Masonia echinata. And remember, I did say this was a daddy bear, mother bear and baby bear, but now seems that each of them is developing a inflorescence cone, even the baby bear. So we're going to see some interesting flowers from them soon. Now I haven't talked much about this plant before, but it really is doing very, very well indeed. It's formed about 5 or 6 extra bulbs now in there. And I love these plants. I know lots of people think they're boring and say, oh, it just looks like grass growing out of a bulb. But when you actually get in close and you see the way that the bulbs actually split and promulgate themselves and form more sister bulbs in a small colony, really is quite a beautiful plant. And there's massive confusion between these genera. Where does albuca merge into Ornithogalum, and where does Ornithogalum merge into Bulbinae? And I do feel sometimes that a lot of these botanical divisions that are created are very, very artificial. Anyway, I'm looking forward to see how the Ornithogalums and albucas flower. But to move from the Masonias really to a very, very closely related genera, we have the yellow-flowered Daubenia aurea. That's just coming up now. And we do have something a bit special here, because one of the Daubenias, and which one is it? Well, it's Daubenia stylosa, has actually flowered. And you can see the curious minimalist form that this plant actually takes. An extreme xerophyte from the Karoo and other drier parts of South Africa. We have those 2 very small leaves which will grow, but unlike the Masonia, the Daubenias actually throw the flower up quite early, and then the leaves continue to grow after that, whereas with the Masonias you get those very well developed leaves first, and then you get the flowers emerging after the leaves have stopped growing. But that's the first Daubenia flower of the year, Daubenia stylosa. And the other Daubenias are all at least protruding above the substrate now. Got Daubenia marginata, Daubenia zayri, this is the one from Jacob's Bay, but clearly up, and even the red flowered form of Daubenia aurea, all clearly above the substrate. Now I don't want to make this video too long, because a lot of the information would be similar to what I've given before, so I'm going to really focus on the strumarias and really bring those up to date, because the strumarias have been as weird as they are wont to be. I did do a supplementary video about the strumaria and their life cycle, which is on YouTube if you look for it. But what we can see now is that those main bodies of long stalked flowers, the miniature hippeastrums, have all died away, and as I talked about before, the seed capsules turned out not to be seed capsules. So after the flowers had gone and were fertilized by copious visits from flies of different kind, I can see here, if I get the angle right, you can see that on the end of the flower stalk you actually have a typical amaryllis 3-shaped tripartite bulb. Can you see that? Still green? And you'd imagine inside there would be seeds, but they're not. Because what happens, or what I have observed happening, is these seeds actually drop off, these bulbils I should say, and immediately throw out one leaf and one root, which then disappears into the substrate and starts growing into a new plant. So the reproductive cycle, at least from my observation of Stromaria caruica, is not sexual in any way. It's actually vegetative. So you can see the spirally green leaves that look like green worms in the substrate. And those are actually sprouting bulbils. Most peculiar plant. But anyway, that's the Stromaria caruica from Maintjesplaats in South Africa. But what I did want to spend a little bit more time on, because it's proven to be just as exciting and weird and strange as I thought, is this Stromaria truncata. Now, reputedly a very difficult plant to grow. I haven't found that. It hasn't died yet. But of interest to me because it's one of the plants which produces a cataphyll. Now, I don't know if you can see that, but coming out of the bulb there is what looks like a red trumpet. And I have likened this in the past to the pitcher on a Nepenthes pitcher plant. It's bright red, and imagine this coming out of the desert sand, like a fungus or a mushroom, and then out from the cataphyll we get those 4 completely flat, so they're in 2 dimensions, leaves. So there are 4 leaves from this Stromaria truncata, and then this long straight flower stem which produces again those flowers which look like a miniature amarylid. In fact, to my mind they look very much like a small Brunsvigia, and the flower stalk is at the top of this long raceme, this long flower scape. So you can see the plant is bizarre in the extreme. A small hard bulb. The bulb throws up this peculiar organ which you really don't see anywhere else, this so-called cataphyll. And this long tube sits there for a while and then slowly expands and becomes redder, and at the end of that expansion the leaves emerge from the middle of the caterpillar, growing up the tube, coming out from the top of that tube, and as the leaves develop then the flower stalk likewise emerges and then blossoms. I thought I'd share that with you. That's sort of the highlight of the month at this stage really. The flowering, the emergence of the cataphyll, and the leaves of the Stromaria truncata. Lovely plant. The 4 miniature Brunsvigias that I've referred to before, they're all in different stages of growth now. So this is a hybrid between Orientalis and Bosmanii. And this one here, which is just starting to grow, is a hybrid between Bosmanii and Orientalis. So the same parents, but different male-female relationships. So it'll be interesting to see when these bulbs are slightly bigger and they flower, whether the flowers will actually vary in any way, because the father and mother are swapped around. And we also have that Brunsvigia Hurry there, which is just coming out into growth as well. So we've got a few small Brunsvigias. Now if I can just race across these other plants and the larger growing amaryllids, which I'm not going to feature today, and a kind of mid-size. I had this plant here which is a Brunsvigia species nova, so unidentified at this stage until it flowers. This Brunsvigia, I've actually had this for nearly 8 years, and it's only produced leaves twice. This is the 2nd time. And I've been at the point of throwing it out so many times, but at the point at which I was absolutely, utterly convinced it was dead this year, I kept squeezing the bulb for signs of rot, and it was always very firm, and I haven't been tempted to water it because I knew that would be a disaster. And then about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, the first green tips of leaves popped out. This is after 3 years of doing absolutely nothing, and the leaves are lengthening nicely. Now I'm only hoping beyond hope, that it's been gathering energy to send up a few at least flowers this year, so that I can identify or attempt to identify which species of Brunsvigia this is. So we have exactly 5 flowers, so it's 5 leaves so far, but no sign, let me just peek, no sign anywhere of anything even remotely resembling a flower stalk. But a tribute to the longevity of these bulbs, which grow in extremely dry, desert-like conditions in South Africa. Perfect companions for cacti and succulents, really. But 3 years of inactivity and then a bit of life. So there we are. That was I'll just linger on this Buophonae distica, another unusual plant, which I will be featuring a little bit later on in a Buophonae and Brunsvigia special episode. Just a brief overview of what's going on with the smaller South African bulbs, particularly those bizarre and peculiar alien life forms, the stromerias and their weird reproductive habits, and the bursting into growth for this year of the smaller Brunsvigias. So it's bye-bye from the smaller amaryllids and other xerophytic bulbs. It's bye-bye from Kirkstone Botanica, and it's bye-bye from me. I hope you all soon. Happy growing, and don't forget to send us pictures of your cacti, your succulents, your bulbs, or anything else in your garden that you want to share with us. And there's one more strange thing before I leave. This is the kind of the cherry on the cake, really. Those who have been following the blog, really is what it is, on Facebook Botanica page, will listen to me or read me waxing lyrical on how long the Eucomis van der Merwe flower lasted. It was nearly 4 months with very little change. Well, that flower has now gone over, as we say in the UK. It's finished and dying. But blow me on down do, what did I see the other day? But although this is the end of the growing season, it sent up copious amounts of new leaves as it formed new offsets from the base, and we have another flower coming from this steadfast and loyal citizen. So the my favourite plant, Eucomis van der Merwe, with its wonderful green leaves and those fantastic spots, almost like a Manfreda or a Mangave, is sending up a second flower cluster for the year. And I think it's kind of made its mind up that it wants to be in flower permanently in an effort to please me. Well, it has pleased me. It's been a steadfast companion, and it's been extremely floriferous, and that trend seems to be continuing. So it's goodbye from the Eucomis, it's goodbye from the Dorbenia, it's goodbye from El Weirdo, the Stromeria truncata, and it's goodbye from Kirkstone Botanica. This time it really is goodbye. Bye bye for now. Bye bye. See you soon.